Hey y'all, hey, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kayshawn, and today I'm back with another story time, y'all. Y'all already know how I like to do. I like to hop right into the video. Y'all been showing me so much love. Like, I'm loving the love. Like, I really appreciate it. I appreciate all the comments that I've been getting, all the new followers, the subscribers on my social media and everywhere. Like, thank you so much for the love. I truly appreciate it. My channel has just been growing, and I just pray and hope that it continues to grow. So thank you. A shout out to everybody who's been subscribing and commenting. I love it. But of course, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share all of my videos. Okay, make sure you check out the rest of my videos on my channel. Today's story time is going to be about the time I got stalked at work, y'all. Like, this is so crazy. Like, let's just hop into the story time. Okay, let's go. So during this story time, I was at the movie theaters for about 2.5 years at this point, and summertime was right around the corner. So like I said before, every time summertime comes around, my job is hiring because the kids is out of school, everybody's coming to the movies more often, so we will always be hiring new workers, right? So okay, it's the summertime. During my breaks and my lunches, like, I was getting tired of eating that popcorn, them nachos, them hot dogs, all that movie theater food. When you be around it 24/7, you kind of get tired of it. At least I was. So on my lunch, I decided to go to Taco Bell. So I'm like, okay, let me run up to Taco Bell real quick, give me some tacos, some nachos, all that good stuff, right? So of course, it's summertime, so I run out. I still got my name tag on, still in my uniform, all that good stuff, right? I go to Taco Bell. I'm in a drive-thru. I'm on the phone talking to whoever. I'm on the phone. I order my food or whatever. I pull up to the first window. I pay. I go to the second window, and I'm waiting for my food. So I'm just on the phone, running my mouth, and I get my food. This guy hands it to me, and he hands it out the window. And as I go to grab it, I turn around and he yanked it back. So I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on here? And he was like, ooh, he was like, you cute. And I was like, oh, thank you, like, whatever. And he was like, oh, you got a boyfriend? Mind you, at the same time, like, I'm like, thank you, but I'm grabbing my phone, and he's like tugging it back, like playing games. And I'm just like, boy, give me my food. What are you doing? Like, why are you playing with my food? I got 30 minutes and you want to be over here playing. So I'm like, can I have my food? And he was like, you got a boyfriend? So I was like, yes. Like, I'm on the phone with my boyfriend now. Like, can I have my food? And he was like, oh, okay, here you go. So he gave me my food, and he was like, you want a free drink? And I was like, yeah, like, I take a free Baja Blast, no ice, thank you. But he's like, you want a free drink? And I was like, yeah. So he gave me a free drink. So I'm just like, okay, well, bye. And he's like, can I get your name? I was like, you know, no need for all of that. Like, I got a boyfriend. I was like, but have a good day. And I pulled off, right? I go to the parking lot of my job. I'm sitting in my job parking lot, and I'm eating my food or whatever. My 30 minutes is over. I go into the building, and I finish the rest of my shift, right, y'all? Next day go by, regular day. Next day go by, regular day. The third day, y'all, people were coming in. So we were doing like on the spot hiring, and it would be between like, oh, it would be like Thursdays and Fridays. You can walk in from like 9 a.m. to like 12 p.m. and like you could just do like a on the spot interview. So a lot of times people would just walk in, ask for applications or ask for the manager, and they would get their interview, right? So this girl walks in, and she's like, yeah, are y'all still hiring? I'm like, yeah. You want an application? She's like, yeah. So I was like, yeah, it's about 1 o'clock, so you missed the, you know, the walk-in interview. But I said, but you can still fill out the application, and you can either leave it here or keep it and come back in tomorrow between 9 and 12, and you'll get a walk-in interview. So she's like, okay, yeah, cool, I'm gonna go ahead and fill out the application, and I'll leave it here with you, and then I'll be back tomorrow. So I was like, okay, cool. And I was like, then that way it gives the manager some time to look over it anyways. She leaves her stuff there, and she's like, okay, thank you. She's like, how do you like working here? And I'm like, oh, it's cool. She's like, well, my name is Alyssa. And I'm like, I'm Kay. Yeah, it's a nice job. It's pretty easy going, straightforward. You know, it's a decent job. She's like, okay, thank you, bye. I'm like, okay, bye. So she comes back the next day, and I'm working because I always did the morning shifts. And she's like, hey, like, are you guys still doing like the walk-in interviews? And I'm like, yeah, let me call the manager for you. I call the manager down. She goes upstairs. She has her interview. 2 days later, I see her coming in with her uniform. So I'm like, bet, like, she got the job. So when she was walking in, I was like, oh, hey, Alyssa. Like I said, you got the job. Congratulations. She's like, yeah, I'm so excited, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. So because she was coming in the morning, I'm like, oh, I already know I got to train her because I'm the only one here in the morning. So I was like, okay, so that's cool. She comes down. So, you know, we're just having like small talk. I'm basically training her, showing her the ropes, showing her around the concession stand and all this other stuff. So she was just like, oh, do you have a boyfriend? And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, yeah, I have a boyfriend, whatever, you know, we've been together for about 2 years. And she's like, oh, okay. She was like, yeah, I have a girlfriend. And I'm like, okay, see, like, you know, okay, so you are gay. And I was like, oh, that's nice. And she was like, well, I was just asking because her birthday is coming up and I didn't know what to get her and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, okay, you just looking for ideas for your girlfriend. So I was like, well, it depends on what she like, but I'm like, you can never go wrong with flowers, edible arrangements, anything from like Victoria's Secret or like the Pink Store or like Uggs and little stuff like that. I'm like, you can never go wrong with that. I'm like, if she a girly girl like me, you know, you can get her a gift card for some makeup at Ulta, Sephora, things like that. So I'm just throwing out little ideas and stuff or whatever. And she's like, yeah, she a real girly girl and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, cool, she got a girlfriend. Because I'm thinking, you know, she asked me if I have a boyfriend, like she was trying to hit on me a little bit. But I'm like, oh, bet. She just asked me questions. Cool. So me and Alyssa was getting to know each other. Like she was giving off a good vibe. She started telling me like she was a rapper and I should come to the studio and hear her rap. So I'm just like, girl, like, you know, I don't mind a little invitation, but I'm just like, oh, okay, you know, one of these days maybe I'll check you out, right? She's like, yeah, you should, because like I'm good and you should come up there and hear me out and whatever and all this good stuff. So I'm like, okay, bet. So she just started asking me all types of questions like, you know, what's your shift like? Do you always do mornings or do you do like afternoons? And, you know, like, can you pick your shift here? And I'm like, well, you could definitely tell them your availability. But I'm like, I normally do mornings and sometimes I'll do afternoons if I pick up a shift or if somebody call off and they ask me to come in. But I was like, for the most part, I do the mornings because not everybody is available to do mornings. So she's like, oh, okay, that's good to know. And I'm just like, yeah, okay. So she was just like, yeah, I like you. She's like, I think I just want to work with you. And I'm sitting here like, girl, you haven't even met nobody else. How you gonna just say you only want to work with me? Like, so I'm like, oh, okay. Well, when you meet everybody else, you're gonna love them too. Everybody is good here. We got good vibes going on, so you'll be okay. So the next day, she comes in and she's coming in with somebody. So I'm just like, okay, like maybe she brought somebody else here that they might want a job, like stuff like that. She's walking in with somebody and she's like, hey Kay, like I'm about to go upstairs and clock in real quick, I'll be back. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I see her little friend with her and he's just standing there like smiling, looking at me. And I'm just like, okay. So I walked away and he was just standing there like over by the game. You know, at the movie theater they'll have like little arcade games and then it would be like a bench. So he was just sitting at the arcade game just waiting. So I'm just like, okay, like, you know, maybe he's waiting for her to come down here so they could talk. I don't know. She comes walking downstairs and she was like this to him, like, come over here. So I'm just sitting there like, what is going on? Because I'm still kind of trying to help her get started because this still like her first week. So she called him over and she's like, yeah, Kay, this is my brother. His name is James. And I'm like, oh, hi, James. And I'm like, I'm looking at him like, why you look kind of familiar? And he's just like, yeah, you know, I work at that Taco Bell up there. So I'm like, oh, right. Okay. So I was like, oh, well, hey, James. And he's like, yeah, this is my sister. I was just dropping her off. So I was like, oh, okay. She's dropped off. Bye. Like, goodbye now. So he's like, yeah, I'm just dropping her off or blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's nice. So we're just standing there. So I'm just looking like, okay, when are you going to leave? Like, I'm trying to help her count in and you just standing here and I'm just like. So I just walked away because I was like, I don't know what's going on with y'all. Y'all been a little weird. I don't know. So I walked away and I went to the back and I came back up and like he was still sitting there. So I just walked over. I come back out and she's like, hey, come here. Like, how do you do this again? Something she needed help with. So I was like, oh, you just do this, blah, blah, blah. So she was like, yeah, I was telling my brother that you were single. And I was like, well, why would you be telling him that? Because actually I told both of you that I already had a boyfriend. So why are y'all even discussing me? So she was like, oh, that's right. Oh, I thought you said you were single. Oh, okay. I'm like, No, you didn't think that. But just to reiterate, I am taking, okay? Happily taken. I'm not single. And even if I was, I'm not interested in nobody. Like, just leave me be. So he was like, oh, okay. Like, he said the typical thing that everybody say. Every boy say this. Yo, dude don't let you have friends? No. Not friends like you. No, I can't have friends. He won't let me have friends. I won't let me have friends. Nobody will let me have friends, sir. I don't want to be your friend. I'm sorry. So I'm just like, no, like, no. And he's like, oh, okay. So he must be controlling you. I'm like, yeah, he is. Yep. I like being controlled. He's controlling me. If that makes you feel better, sir, he's controlling me, okay? Like, I don't want to be your friend. Like, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be mean, but, like, you already flirted with me. So why would I, like, what kind of friend is that about to be? Like, I'm good. So he's just like, okay. He's like, well, what time do y'all get off? And I'm like, what you mean, y'all? Like, you ain't picking me up. You need to be asking what time your sister get off. And that's it. Ain't no y'all. And I was just like, I don't know. Like, I'm like, sometimes I stay. Sometimes I leave early. I don't know. It's up in the air. And he's like, oh, okay. He was like, I guess I'm just have to keep tabs on you. I was like, no, you might not want to keep tabs on me. I said, for what? And he was like, I'm just playing. What's funny? You lost me. What was the joke? So I'm just like, okay, you weird. So I'm just like, okay, so he leaves and I'm looking at his sister a little funny now because I'm just like, what's going on with your brother? Like, what's the tea? And she's like, what? What's wrong? I'm like, okay, nothing, I guess, because nobody see no problem with nothing going on, so fine. So I'm just like, okay, anyways, let me finish helping you so I can go down to my register and leave you alone because you want some weird stuff. So, okay, the rest of the day happened, nothing happened. It was only me and Alyssa there, so she came up to me like, what time we taking our lunch? So I was like, well, I'll go at such and such time, and then when I come back, you can go. And she's like, oh, okay, like you're going at 2:30? And I was like, yeah, I'll go at 2:30, and then that way you can go at 3. So she's like, okay. So it was like 1 something. So, okay, my lunch rolls around. I'm like, all right, Alyssa, I'm about to go on lunch. And she's like, okay. Now, she knew that I went to my car to sit out there because, like I said, it was hot. So I would just go sit in my car and be on the phone or do whatever, right? So I come outside, I'm sitting in my car, I'm playing some game on my phone, and somebody knocks on my window. So I look up like, it's James, her fucking brother. So I'm like, whoa. I'm like, can I help you? And he was like, roll down your window, because mind you, I just had it cracked. Like, I just had a little bit cracked or whatever. And he was like, roll down your window. I was like, what you need? And he's like, oh, like, I was bringing my sister some lunch. I brought you a couple tacos. I know you like the chalupas. I was like, okay. Like, I was like, no, thank you. I was like, I just ate, I'm good. I don't really want it. And he was like, well, here, you could just take them and maybe you could eat them later. And I'm like, no, I don't want them. Like, did you poison my tacos and you think you about to feed them to me? I was like, yeah, I'm about to get off in a minute, so you can go in there and get your sister her lunch, and because I only got a couple more minutes. And he was like, all right, babe. He was like, well, you can just take it in there for me and I'll just sit out here with you for a minute. He started walking before I can even say anything, y'all. He was walking around my car. So I'm like, my doors is already locked because as soon as I get in my car, I lock my doors. I don't play those games. He's walking around and I'm like, sir, I'm like, excuse me. No. I was like, no, you don't need to sit in my car. I was like, for what? And he was like, oh, I just thought like we could just chill for a minute. I was like, James, baby. No. I was like, no, it's none of that. I was like, no, you gotta sit in my car. I'm about to get out anyways. I had to pack up my stuff early. Like, you killing my lunch vibe. So I had to pack up my stuff. I'm like, I'm about to go back in anyways. So you good. You don't have to come in. Y'all, why I'm saying this to him, he's pulling on my door handle. So I'm just sitting here like, clearly it's locked because you tried to open it the first time and it did not open. The door is locked. Why are you pulling on my door handle? So I'm like, can you stop? And he was like, oh, I thought you was going to unlock it. I was like, no, I'm about to get out. So I was like, but have a great day. Like, trying to shoo him away. And he was like, okay, well, can you at least take the tacos in there? And I was like, I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, you asking for too much. I'm getting out the car, y'all. I'm just like, you killing my vibes. See, I had to wait till I see people who was walking around. So I'm like, okay, it's people out here. Let me go ahead and get out. I got the car. I was like, just give me the tacos. And he was like, well, come on, we can just walk in together. Boy, what is you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, now we could walk in together. I thought you didn't want to go in there, but now you want to go in there. Like, what are you doing? So I'm just like, what the hell is going on? We walk in and I'm like, okay, well, I'm back for lunch. Like, we walking up to the concession stand. So the sister is like, ooh, I see y'all. And I'm like, you see nothing. Like, don't see me and him walking and you think anything, because it's none of that. Like, I don't know what's wrong with y'all and why y'all two don't grasp the hint that I'm throwing at y'all, but it's none of that. Like, what's going on? So I was like, you see what? And she was like, I see the two lovebirds. I was like, yo, this bitch is crazy. Like, what is going on? So I'm just like, okay, whatever. Like, I was like, no, ain't no lovebirds. I said, your brother came up here to see you and bring you food. Nothing to do with me. So he was like, well, technically, I brought you food too. And I was like, okay, well, just give it to your sister and go. Like, so she take her tacos and she go on lunch. So he's sitting there. I'm like, do you want to go sit with your sister at lunch? Like, she's on lunch now. Like, you can go sit with her. Why are you sitting up at the concession stand? Like, what are you doing? So at the concession stand, we had the ushers podium, like up the, like you go up the ramp and that's the ushers. So I'm trying to call one of my friends that was an usher to come down, because I'm like, you come talk to me, because this boy is weird. Like, I don't want to sit up here by myself with him. And mind you, it is dead, no customers there. So I'm just sitting there and he's looking like what are you looking at? So I told my friend to come up. She comes up and we're just talking. So like, I'm low-key talking about him too on the low. I'm like, girl, do you see this? Like, dude, he is tripping. Like, why is he just standing there not saying it? The thing is, y'all, he was just standing there not really saying anything. Like, he was just, hey, you know how you lean up on like a counter or something? He was just leaned up on a counter just looking. So I'm just like, what the fuck is he doing? So I'm telling her. So after a while, I'm looking at the time, like 5-10 minutes. So I was like, James, did you need something? I'm like, are you trying to wait for your sister to come back down? Because I'm like, you could at least go sit on the bench over there. Like, you don't have to sit up at the concession. Like, you can go sit down. And he was like, no, like, I was waiting for you to get done. I said, get done doing what? She was like, oh, you was talking, I didn't want to interrupt. I said, okay, but what do you need from me? Like, what you need? So he was like, no, I was just going to talk to you. I said, James, but what do you want to talk about? Like, what do you want to talk about? And he was just like, you know, like, are you having a good day? I said, James, listen. I said, I'm at work. Like, you can't be doing this. Like, you can't just sit up at the concession stand and try to talk to me. Like, I'm at work. I have to do my job. I need to focus on my job. Like, you have to go. I'm like, unfortunately, like, I'm sorry. Like, if you're not here to watch a movie or you don't want to buy something from a concession stand, you don't need to just sit up here with me. Like, I'm like, you know, I'm flattered, but no thank you. And he's like,
no, thank you. No, thank you.
I'm like, yo, this dude is crazy. So he like,
wow.
And he walks out, y'all. Next thing you know, I see the sister coming down on the phone. So I guess she on the phone with him. And she like, what the, like, I don't even know what she was saying. I just hear her like, what the fuck? Here I come. And I'm just like, the fuck? Like, y'all bitches is sick. I'm just talking to my friend like, these Bopsy twins gonna get their ass beat. Like, what is going on here? Like, I'm so confused on what, I'm just confused, y'all. I was so confused on what was going on. She leaves out the door. So I'm just like, okay, like, whatever. So I continue talking to my friend or whatever. She comes back from lunch and she like, what's your problem? Who are you talking to? She's like, what's your problem? Who are you talking to? Who got a problem? She's like what's wrong? Like, why you act so stuck up? I said, excuse me? She said, you act so stuck up. Like, what's your problem? Like, why would you yell at my brother like that? I said, sweetheart, anybody being stuck up? I said, I didn't yell at your brother. I just told your brother that if he didn't need nothing up here, it was no reason for him to be standing up here and you wasn't even up here. And she's like, well, I'm getting a different story, but whatever. Y'all, I'm like, oh, this bitch is nuts. She don't even understand that I'm trying to be so professional in this bitch, but please don't make the hood come out. When you talking about I'm bougie and I'm being stuck up, she said whatever and put her hand up. Ma'am, I'm sitting here thinking like this bitch must want all her fingers on this hot dog machine going around the rotisserie. She has to. She must want me to chop her fingers off and put them up there with the hot dogs. That could be her only reason for putting her hand up in my face. I'm sitting here thinking like, this job, kill this bitch. This job, kill this bitch. Job, kills is up there. I'm just sitting here looking. I had to look at my friend. I'm like, did she just put her hand in my face? Bitch, what? I'm like, okay. I said, Alyssa, let me tell you something, baby. Don't get confused by this uniform. Please don't. Because at that time, minimum wage was what? $7.50, about $7.50. Please don't get confused by this uniform. Okay? I'm real nice, professional K, but don't make the hood come up out of me, sis. Please don't. Stop playing with me. Don't ever. I had to bring it down, cause baby girl, like, did she put her hand in my face after she just called me bougie and stuck up? Y'all, I said, okay, it's lit. It's lit. She lit. So I said, girl, I said, I'm gonna walk away, cause that's what's best for the both of us. But try me again, and it's gonna be a problem. I literally walked away from her, y'all. After that day, she went on to afternoons, okay? Like, she didn't work mornings like that with me no more. She went on to afternoons. Good, girl. That's what you better had did. So, a couple days later, y'all, the brother comes in. James come in. By this time, I'm just like, okay, your sister do not work mornings no more. It is no reason why you should be pulling up in here. For what? It's no reason. I'm just like, okay, this dude is nuts. Like, why are you coming up here? So, before he can even get to the concession stand, I said, yes, James. Yes. Yes, James. I yelled it because I'm like, what are you coming up here for? So I'm like, can I help you? Can I help you? I was like, would you like to try the number one? Like, if you're not buying nothing, you don't come up here. And he was like, calm down, calm down. He was like, what's wrong with you? I said, would you like to try the number one combo, sir? Because what else is you doing here? And he was like, no, I was just checking up on you. My sister told me y'all had a fight. Sir, I said, first of all, we didn't have no fight. Second of all, I don't need you to check up on me, okay? Like, I'm okay. I said, James, this is not okay. I was like, you can't just keep popping up here for no reason. And he was like, okay, so I'm the bad guy because I'm trying to check on you. I said, James, we're not friends. We don't have any relations. You don't have to check up on me, okay? So you have to stop this. That's exactly what I said to him. This is what this man did, y'all. And he was up close to me like this. He started walking backwards. Just easing backwards. He didn't say nothing to me, y'all. He started walking backwards until he got to the door, and he turned around and left. He didn't say nothing after I said that. He literally just walked backwards out the door. So I'm telling my favorite manager, my girl, my favorite manager, I'm telling my manager, like, yo, this dude is crazy. Like, I'm starting to get these weird vibes from him, and it is not okay. Like, I'm just like, this is not, he about to get banned from this movie theater, because why you keep pulling up here for no reason? Like, I'm not understanding. You don't need your sister that bad. If you're here to drop her off at the door, and you keep on going. It's not that serious. So I'm just like, yeah, he doing too much. So one of the ushers at the movie theater, he was my friend. I'm gonna just call him Brian. I'm telling Brian, like, this dude is crazy, da-da-da-da. Like, I'm just giving him the whole tea. So we just was talking about it. Lunchtime come, me and Brian, we go on lunch together, whatever. So this time, Brian was like, come to my car. He was like, we about to go sit in my car. So I was like, okay, well, let me go get my charger out of my car. Me and Brian is literally like 5 cars away from each other. So I'm like, hold on, let me go get my charger out of my car. I run to my car, whatever. All I hear is,
okay.
So I'm just like, I'm looking around. I'm like, Brian, I was like, you need me? He was like, what? I'm like, you called me? He's like, no. I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm hearing shit. So I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm in my car, getting my charger. I hear again.
K.
I'm like, what the fuck? I had to pull a movie moment. I'm like, hello? Anybody there? Hello? I'm just looking around like, okay. I'm like, let me get my shit and go to some weird shit.
K, right here.
I'm like, y'all, I'm just looking around like, and I see it's a white car behind me so he was basically behind me over one car. It's a white car, okay? He's backed in, so the driver's side is like, window on my side. It's a white car, tinted windows, and it's rolled down just a little bit. I see 2 fingers out the window like this, doing this. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? So he just like,
come here.
No face, y'all. I ain't see no face. I don't see nothing. He like, come here. I'm like, I'm like, who the fuck is that? I'm like, who is that? So he like, come here. I said, Brian. Y'all, I'm like, Brian. And he pulls off. He pulls off. He literally pulls off. Now, mind you, I've never seen James' car up until that point because he would always just come in. So I never seen his car or what type of car he had. I see him pull off. So I'm just like, I know that's James. I know that's James. I already know it. So I go tell Brian. He's like, what happened? I'm like, that's that dude James. Like, he was just calling my name, telling me to come to his car. Like, this dude on some weird shit. Like, I'm gonna have to call the goons in a minute because, baby, what is you doing? So Brian like, oh yeah, he on some weird stuff. You need to tell the security, because we had like a little security around the movie theater. So he like, you need to tell the security to stop letting him in, and tell the managers because he doing too much. Now y'all listen, like at this time I was young, so don't ask me why I never called the police or filed a report or anything like that, because I think in my mind I never thought it was that serious. And that's the worst thing, y'all, when you are feeling weird about something or your gut is telling you something and you ignore those signs. Please don't do that, y'all. If you feel like you are in danger or somebody is stalking you or following you, it's better to be safe than sorry, okay? So I definitely should have called the police or made some type of report about it or something, but I did not do that, y'all. So don't ask me why, like, oh, you should have called the police on him. My young brain did not think that far, okay? Like, I literally didn't think that much into it. Like, I'm just thinking like, you know what? I got the blinky on me. So I'm just thinking like, this dude, like, he ain't that crazy, right? But listen, we cannot think like that. We can't think that they not that crazy, because they really be that crazy. So yeah, I just had to say that. Don't ask me why I never called the police. I definitely should have, because he was weird as fuck, but I didn't. I go back in from lunch and I'm telling my manager, and I told the security guard, like, listen, Alyssa's brother is not allowed in here. Like, he is weird. He been stalking me damn near, and I'm over it. So he's like, yeah, okay, you got a picture of him? I'm like, no, I got no damn picture of him. Like, I ain't just taking pictures of him. But I said, I'm almost certain that he's gonna come back in here. So when he come back in here and I point him out, you just know what the tea is. So he's like, okay, bet. So my manager like, yeah, like, why he keep coming up here? So she stayed downstairs with me for a minute to see if he was gonna come back, but he never came back that day. Fast forward, y'all, a couple days, right? I end up working a Saturday night because 2 girls called off, so they called me in. I'm coming in on Saturday, right? I see Alyssa. So I'm like, okay, let me make sure I'm all the way down away from this bitch at the register, because I ain't messing with her. So I come in, I'm sitting next to her, like, I work my little shift or whatever. Mind y'all, this shift is not on the schedule, okay? Because I took this shift last minute, so it's not even on the schedule. I'm just like, okay, so I shouldn't have this boy coming up in here, because you don't even know I work today. So you shouldn't even be rolling up through here. Anyways, y'all, I worked this Saturday. I was there for a couple hours. Everything smooth. Alyssa ain't said 2 words to me. I ain't said nothing to her. No sign of the brother. I go on lunch. I come back, y'all. Nothing happened on lunch. So I'm like, okay, we getting somewhere. Like, I ain't have no problems at lunch. I ain't had no problems today. I come back from lunch. Here come the brother walking in. And he got something in his hand. And I'm looking. And I'm like, what the fuck?